in the pandemic. Oh my gosh, at home, like literally.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.
Hi my loves, welcome back to the Nursing Diary. My name is Sierra, for those of you who don't already know, and I am in nursing school. I make videos related to nursing, lifestyle, and beauty. I am going into my second year of nursing. This is my last and final year of nursing. I only have 9 months until I graduate, but this video is going to be really cool, really special, because I'm going to go over all of you special nursing students that got to join nursing school in the pandemic, and we're going to talk about it. So what was nursing school like
in the pandemic?
Like literally, let's talk about it. I'm just gonna jump right into the video. If you are new to my channel, go ahead and subscribe. So what was nursing school like surviving the pandemic? Let's just start off with my very first semester. My first semester of nursing school was in January of 2020, right? So I got accepted into the spring program, and it was great. It was awesome, and we were in person up until spring break, and that was like March 13th or something, like the second week of March. Second or third week of March, we had went into spring break, and we had already knew that COVID was live and real and happening. And other schools, we kept hearing on the news that they were shutting down, and I was like, oh my gosh, I hope our school doesn't shut down, because I don't want to delay, you know, nursing school, whatever, have to drop out a year, whatever. I was thinking of all these crazy things, and I was like, I don't want that to happen. So I was kind of like praying that our school didn't shut down, but it did. So we were over spring break, and they extended our spring break a week. And so we had 2 weeks of spring break, and then going into the third week, we thought we were going to go back, and they were like, oh, we're extending it again. And then going into that fourth week, they were like, we are just going to be online until further notice, because we can't keep pushing back spring break. So spring break got pushed back 2 weeks, and we had a whole 3 weeks of spring break. So that happened, and then I was supposed to have like an exam going into after spring break, like that week after spring break we were supposed to get an exam, and it literally ended up happening 3 weeks after spring break. Like literally after spring break was over, that 3 weeks we had that exam, and it like went terrible. So what was that like for me? What was life like studying at home, being a nursing student at home? What were clinicals like? I'm gonna let y'all know. So pretty much we had no clinicals. My very first semester of nursing school, we went to 1 clinical day, and let me tell you about this clinical day, because we were able to go in person to do like the hospital tour. It was kind of like a scavenger hunt thing that we had to do, to where we would go to the hospital, we would tour where the supply closets were, the charge nurse, like who you blah 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 blah. It was like an orientation day at the hospital. And then we had one more clinical day to where we got to only be with the PCT. So our job that day was to follow around the PCT, do the glucometers, do vitals, bed baths, thing like that, like the simple nursing things that a tech should do. That's what we were responsible for doing that specific day. So I passed no meds. I did nothing as a nursing student, like start IVs or this or that. I didn't do any of that. The only thing that I got to do was do a bed bath, and I think that was it. I think that's what I did for the whole day. I can't even remember, because like it was very first day, and it was like very scary and very like, oh my gosh, intimidating. So that's what happened on my very first clinical day. And then little did I know that I would never go back at my first semester, ever go back to a clinical ever again. So once we went online, literally we did simulations online for labs and simulations online for clinical as well. So I had assessment lab, we had a concept lab, and then we had a clinical. So for each lab, we literally would go online, and we would get like a patient, and it was like a virtual patient, and you would have to pretty much walk through this virtual hospital, introduce yourself to the patient, and you would have to click what you would do next, how you would respond to the patient, what you would assess next, like literally step by step on a computer. And it was helpful only because it got you thinking, and it's like, okay, this is great, I get to think about what I'm gonna do next. But at the same time, it's like, that's not what you would do in a clinical setting. It's like, oh my gosh, you know exactly what to do, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. But I don't know, it was helpful in a way, but that's literally what we did. We did online case studies. Literally my clinical instructor made us get up, I think it was like maybe by 7 or 8, and sit in front of our computers until about 4 or 5. We would talk about what we would have to do. I don't know, like it was kind of crazy, and it was kind of sad because Our professors like didn't know what to do. They were just all as confused as everybody else, and we were kind of all hanging in there, and it hit everybody really, really, really hard. Like that first wave of COVID when nobody knew what was going on and we were like, what the heck, the world is shutting down. That was my nursing cohort. So to anyone else who's in that cohort, I'm just gonna say all praises to you. We're getting through it. We're almost done with nursing school. Keep going, keep going, keep going. But that's what it was. Every single class was online. Pharmacology was online. Assessment was online. Concepts was online. And then I had a travel abroad that I was going to do. We were going to do travel abroad to Great Britain to study the healthcare system there. But we couldn't even do that, and that got canceled. Luckily, we were able to get our deposits back, and I still got an A in the class. We only had to do one project, which was really cool. But like all we wanted to do was go to England, but we couldn't because it was shut down. So everything, like I said, was online. Everything was crazy. Everything was like new and confusing for everybody. But we kind of got through it one day at a time. Our exams converted to online. So at my university, we did exams on our computers already via ExamSoft. It's this program that you download on your computer. And when we would take exams in the classroom before the pandemic started, we would bring our stuff with us, our computers to class with us, and we would sit at the table and take our exams. We weren't allowed to have anything with us at the tables, but once we converted to online, it was so hard because those people who live with people, have animals, whatever, now everybody's at home. It was so difficult to take these exams. I literally had to sit in my closet at times just to take an exam and write a big old note on the door like, be quiet, I'm taking an exam, be considerate, please. Like, it was so difficult for me because there were so many people at my house, and yeah, it was just really hard to focus, to be in that grind. For me, being in the school setting on campus is really helpful for me. It helps me get into that drive, helps me really focus and get things done. But when I was at home, it's like, oh my gosh, I have laundry to do. Oh my gosh, I have to do this. Oh my gosh, I need to vacuum the floor. Blah, blah, blah. I need this, blah, 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 all these things. And like, I was so distracted that I couldn't 100% commit to my studies, especially because now we're at home 24/7. Like, I would try to go on walks throughout the day and things like that because the days would get so long. Let me get back to the point. Pharmacology was online. She would literally do all the lectures via Zoom, and she did things regularly. She tried to keep it as if we were in class, and she would read the PowerPoints, things like that, to try to keep us in a routine schedule. My class assessments and my class concepts obviously was different because we need labs for those things to learn our skills, to be able to assess patients. So for assessments, we literally, it was so difficult because they were like, if you don't have anybody at home with you, we need you to get a stuffed animal, we need you to get a pillow, pretend like it's a person. And it's like, how do I pretend like this pillow is a person? Like, I can sit here and I can like talk to the pillow, whatever, if you really want me to. I can pretend that you have eyes. I can pretend like your pupils are equal and reactive to light. I can do all these things, but like, you don't get the same experience unless you're working with someone. So luckily there was times I had someone that I can assess at home, and then there were times that I had no one and I had to pretend like I was assessing a stuffed animal. So it was like we were throwing things together and trying to figure things out. Even though we were on virtually, you know, I got to sit there in front of my professor. She was on Zoom, and I got to show her my assessment, and basically she would kind of check us off and make sure that we were doing things correctly. And we would just kind of talk everything through online. Again, that was difficult for me. I'm sure some people really enjoyed being at home, but for me, I did not enjoy it. For concepts, it was pretty much the same thing. We had the same clinical instructor for assessments and for concepts. So like, she would do assessments the same as she did our concepts class. And when we had to do our checkoffs, we had a head-to-toe assessment. Y'all know that when you go assess a patient, usually like at the beginning of your rounds or whatever, you're gonna go do an assessment. It's usually not a full head-to-toe, but like your first semester of nursing school, you're supposed to do a full head-to-toe assessment. And we went online before we got to do that in person, so they had to cut down the head-to-toe assessment because we didn't have X and Y, Z amount of time to do all these assessments virtually, and it was difficult for us. And so they basically cut it down to the main systems. We had a general, I think it was like the general, like once you go in, your patient is A&O times 4, whatever, blah, 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 blah. They're oriented to person, place, time, whatever, all these things. And then we did the heart sounds, the lung sounds, and then you did your abdomen, and then I think you did eyes. I can't remember. It was like pretty simple assessments that you would have to do that literally you usually do every single day on your patient without even subconsciously, you don't usually do, but we made sure we hit the high points with heart sounds, lung sounds, general overall being of our patient with the assessment. So we had to do that over virtually, and it was so nerve-wracking because everybody's watching you on Zoom. So it was really, really weird. And it was actually kind of funny because I had to do it on my sister, and she was like, I had to try to keep a straight face because it's like, oh no, now we don't have like a random classmate. We actually have someone that we know, and we have to be serious when you might not usually be serious with that person. But anyway, that's what it was like my very first semester of COVID. And then going into my second semester, we had already kind of gotten to the groove of things. I did notice once we went online that my grades started to drop a lot, like tremendously, and it was like really sad, really scary, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna fail nursing school. But I did end up having to retake pharm because I did so bad after we went online. I was luckily able to stay above water with concepts and assessment, and also, like I said, the travel abroad class, we only had one assignment, so that was really simple. But with pharm, I could not keep up being at home, and it was just so terrible, and I was so hard on myself because I was like, oh my gosh, I can't keep blaming it on the pandemic. Like, I was at home, I was distracted, I could have been more productive, I could have done this, I could have done that. But all in all, it was very difficult for me learning from home, especially with pharm because there was so much. But anyway, so going into second semester of nursing school, we were still online, and it's been, I think, a year and a half now. And second semester, we were still online. Like I said, I had to retake pharm, but usually in the second semester of nursing school, all of your classes are online anyway. We take research, groups, and also geriatrics, which is all online courses. So those were very simple because those are already online. The only class that I had to do that was like redo was pharm, which was usually in person. But my second time around, I did really, really well, and I was so proud of myself. And then going into the third semester of nursing school, which is technically supposed to be my fourth and last, but because I had to retake pharm, going into my third semester of nursing school, we did I did med surg or adult health, and then also maternal or OB, and then we also did our clinical rotations. So for me, I had only had one clinical day within that whole entire first year of nursing school because of COVID. Now, those who started the second semester of COVID, they were able to still go to clinical, still go to lab, because they kind of learned from the first semester, that first wave of COVID, like, okay, this is what happened last semester. Now we know how kind of what to expect, what to do to eliminate X, Y, and Z. So there were clinical groups that were able to go to clinicals and that were able to go to labs. And then now going into my last and final year of nursing school, like last semester, we still went to each clinical. We had to keep on our N95 mask, and then we also had to have a surgical mask on top. And every time we walk into the hospital, you would have to grab a new N95 mask. They would give you like a temperature assessment when you walk in. If you had any fever at all or any signs and symptoms that you had COVID, you were not allowed to go to clinical, and you had to report that. We also had this thing on our phone. It's called Castle Branch, to where you have to upload. It was like weekly. I don't know if it was weekly. I think it was weekly. You'd have to upload these weekly check-ins, like, oh, this is my temperature today. I haven't had any of these symptoms, and it kind of clears you to be able to go to campus or go to clinical, which was crazy because it's like, oh my gosh, we have to do these assessments. Like, it's so weird, but we had to do that, and I mean, it worked out pretty well. Clinicals were great. I mean, it kind of sucked having to stay in those masks like for a whole ever long that you're at clinical. We were there from 6:30 to 5, so we had to keep it on, and we also had to wear goggles and also a face shield. So like some units were more lenient than others, and they would say, okay, you won't have to have your goggles on. Oh, you don't have to have your N95 on. But our specific nursing program did say, hey, we want you to have the N95 on and your surgical mask. At times, like, it was hard. Like, no, I'm not going to sit here and wear the N95 because we weren't on COVID units, you know. But at the same time, you don't know if your patient has COVID. There were so many things that you would have to look for in your patient's chart to see if that patient had COVID or if they had already tested negative. You would have to look for, like, every hospital is different, but some hospitals would show like, okay, patient was negative, COVID tested, or the patient is still waiting results, and it's like, you shouldn't get that patient because you don't know if they're COVID positive or COVID negative, and you don't want to pretty much expose yourself to COVID. So you would have to make sure that you were getting all the right patients and things like that. And at the end of the day, like, we were responsible for our own health, and to make sure that we took care of, you know, wearing our N95 masks, wearing our surgical mask, wearing our eye protection and our face shields and things like that. So that's pretty much what it was like being a COVID nursing student. Y'all, I'm sure nursing students in general go through a lot of stuff, but these people, everybody in nursing school right now going through COVID, I salute all of y'all, because it is very, very difficult on top of already being a nursing student, now being a nursing student on top of COVID. Plus, you know, once the vaccines came out, there were a lot of people who got vaccines and then had terrible side effects when we had exams, and professors did not let them, you know, say, oh, I'm not feeling so good today. You still had to take that exam regardless of the side effects that you had from your vaccine. You still had to take that freaking exam. They really didn't care. So like, it was a struggle. And then don't even let me get started on the nursing students who might have actually did have COVID, like trying to be a nursing student while you have COVID and you can't breathe. That's terrible. It's terrible. So that's what it's like being a nursing student during COVID. We're surviving. We're trying to get through it. We are getting through it, and we will get through it. Me, even though I had to retake pharm, I am still getting through it. I only have 9 more months until I graduate, y'all, which is really, really exciting. And I would have never, ever, ever imagined in a million years that this is what my nursing school experience would be. But this is what it is. We're going through it. We're learning through it, and I'm not going to say it's great, but it's nursing school. So that is pretty much it. I kind of just wanted to give those of you who maybe are already in the nursing program my perspective on what it was like being a nursing student during COVID, or maybe if you're getting ready to join and it's like, well, what? I'm going to have to be doing nursing school during COVID. This is what it has looked like, and I hope this video has kind of helped you in some kind of way. So if you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. I love your feedback. That's okay with me. If you guys are new and are not already subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you enjoy my channel, I would love for you to join the family, and make sure you hit the notification bar so you can get notified every time I drop a video, which is usually every Sunday. And I believe that is it for this week's video. Like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to always be kind, love yourself and others, and always go out and try your best. I will see y'all in my next video. Bye.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.